All right, we're recording now.
Hey, my name's Riley. I'm just a helper with the community.
So
Give me that one.
I guess I'll start, I guess. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Okay. I'm gonna read my statement here. Hello and welcome to the Mendota Mdewakanton Dakota Tribal Communities Press Conference being held here today at the Dupuy House, a Minnesota State Historical Site at Mendota, Minnesota. Yes, I use the M dialect of the Eastern Dakota people. So we, the Mendota Dakota Oyate, with an open hand and friendship, say how. Welcome to our press conference today. My name is Greg Strandmark. I'm a descendant of Abraham Robinette. I am a past and present historian for the community. I am a co-chair of the Federal Recognition Committee. I've been to the National Archives in Washington, D.C. and Kansas City recently for the community. I've been researching the history and genealogy of the Mendota Dakota people since 1995. We, like most of the federally recognized Dakota communities in Minnesota, all had similar beginnings after the U.S.-Dakota War of 1862. The Dakota in Minnesota were known as scattered Sioux, being that they were located at numerous scattered locations across the southern Minnesota. These locations were chosen for various reasons. Some were old haunts, some were seclusion, some were under the safety and protections of prominent Minnesotans like Alexander Faribault, himself a mixed blood Dakota, or Henry Sibley, Minnesota's first state governor. All provided sanctuary for a group of loyal Dakota who had exerted themselves in the aid of the white settlers and who remained loyal to the United States and were allowed to stay in the state while the rest of the Dakota tribe was exiled. By far the largest concentrations after the war found sanctuary at Mendota under the protections of Sibley. Most had served as scouts or were mixed bloods who had recently enlisted to prosecute the war on their kin. All squatted on land owned by Sibley, some of which became a 20-acre platted subdivision of Mendota known as Sibley's Indian Homes. Sibley's Indian Homes was one of the earlier attempts to bring the Mendota Dakota people under federal jurisdiction and acquire trust land for our ancestors. Later efforts to settle and support the scattered Sioux resulted in land acquisitions at various locations, with the largest at Prairie Island, Prior Lake, and Lower Sioux. While our ancestors' community at Mendota was called a Mayor Squatters Camp, almost within the vicinity of the cities of St. Paul and Minneapolis, and for every reason must not be encouraged or allowed to remain. That's in quotes. And that another quote, it is impossible to do anything for these people until they first select a place to live. This, despite that one of the Mendota Dakota families had been living in the first brick home, the Dupuy House here, where we are today, built in Mendota since 1854, and that the federal government owned thousands of acres of military reserve on the opposite side of the Minnesota River from Mendota. It's this lack of trust land acquisition for the Mendota Dakota people that would play large in the recognition 40 years later with the coming of the 1934 Wheeler-Howard Act, better known as the Indian Reorganization. So that's pretty much in a nutshell. And I'll let Sharon do a speech. You got your speech, Channy? And okay. Oh, well, you might need to get a little closer.
Echo. Hello, I want to say good afternoon to everyone and thank you for coming and joining us today. I am the tribal chairwoman for the Mendota community. I have been for 16 years. My Dakota name is Good Thunder Woman. It's also Wakia Washte Week. We welcome you to our sacred indigenous lands here in Mendota. We are descendants of an ancient tribes that settled in these lands thousands of years ago. We are still here and we will always be here. We will fight for our rights. I call us the Mendota Orphans, not that everyone else does, I just do because of how we've been treated through the years. Sorry here. It's one of the things we do not get as much respect from not only our other Native communities, and one of the reasons is because we don't have we're not federally recognized. And, you know, to me, that's a bunch of crap because we don't have federal recognition. We are applying for recognition. That is one of our main purposes for this meeting today, is to get someone hopefully out there that can help us get federally recognition. Two is possibly getting this house that we're in right now. It is my grandparents' home, which is my cousin Dick sitting right across from me, his great grandparents too. And many, getting a little nervous. I've never done this before. A lot of members are related to Hippolyte Dupree and Angeline Renville. My grandfather farmed out. It was then in the 40s, prior Lake Indian community, as did Greg Strand, Mark's great grandfather. Don't tell me his name. Robinette, Abraham Robinette. So we have a lot of history back to Shakopee. Shakopee was looking for people back in '85 to come out there and become members. We went out there, and after a while, they told us we don't belong. And yet half the people out there are related to us. Anyway, they said, go start your own community. And we did that almost 30 years ago now. So now we just feel it's time that, you know, we speak up and somebody listens to us. Nobody ever listens to us, again, because we don't have federal recognition, which is ridiculous. So I don't want to repeat myself, but I am nervous. Like I said, I hope you take this part out. But it's all recorded. Okay. So we have to move from the office that we're in across the street because it has mold and mice. We do have to move. We have nowhere to go. So if we had a community center, you know, that would be so awesome, because right now we can't have even a meeting without permission. You know, we have to get permission. Yeah, we're at the Dupree House right now, but whether it's at the VFW, you know, or up at St. Peter's Church, you know, we always have to get permission to have a meeting, you know, and so we just had our own place. We don't have to have a meeting. If we get enough land, we can have our powwows right there on that land, along with our community center and interpretive center. I just want to mention one thing about Professor Mike Klein. He is with St. Thomas College. He is writing a book about us right now. All the proceeds will go to Mendota. And the book is called Mendota Dakota, Land and Leadership. And that should be out very shortly, within a month or so, possibly. I'm writing a book also. I don't know when it's going to be done because I'm too busy with Mendota, but I want to write the book. Yeah. I just want to finish this. So I'm writing the book. It's going to be about my roots, not being raised Native, my bout with cancer, which I'm in remission, being a Dakota elder in our community, being the chairwoman for a long time. It's had its lots of ups and downs. So I want to mention our powwow. That is September 11th through the 12th of this year. It's our 21st powwow. We're very proud of it. Everyone is welcome to come, bring the kids. I think that's it for now. I want to thank everybody, Joe and Greg and everyone here that's showing support for us. Welcome, and thank you for coming. Oh, do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, this is Kevin with Indians.com. It would be great if you could share a little bit about your own experience, as a Mendota Dakota, and what it's been like to try to gain federal recognition for your people.
I'll let Greg answer that.
Federal recognition has been a struggle. I was telling Aaron earlier today, every record that we have to get is mostly down at the National Archives, either in Washington, D.C. or in Kansas City. I've made a trip to each one and gotten some, but there's still a lot there. But I'm thinking that we got quite a bit to submit the petition. Might be a short 1 or 2 documents, but it is a struggle. It's like with most of the communities that have gone through it, it's multi-generational. Usually the ones that start the petition usually pass on before they either get turned down or get recognition. So we should never have a system set up to where it takes that long. And obviously, like I says, with the records being controlled by the National Archives or the Bureau of Indian Affairs, it gets kind of tough trying to even know what is out there, that could help.
Sure. Have you applied for recognition before? And if so, how often, I guess, or how many times have you applied
we
before?
submitted a petition back in 1996. It was about 5 boxes of papers. It wasn't well put together. We were just flying off the seat of our pants on that at the time. And of course, the government didn't have enough extra information on how to submit a petition. Eventually some of the stuff started showing up online during the early 2000s. And then with the Cobell case, the whole BIA site got taken down, and I couldn't get access to the federal recognition documents probably for another, I want to say 7-8 years before stuff started popping back up on the internet. And they got some good stuff out there at the Office of Federal Acknowledgement that helps guide a petitioner along. But it's tough. You have to show that you're a community. You got to show that you got different strengths of evidence too. You got strong evidence or not so strong evidence. A strong evidence could actually prove multiple criterias with just the strong evidence, like 50% of your community live in a geographical area. Well, early days of our community, they all lived here in Mendota. And they've all lived in Mendota. Probably, I'm going to guess there's still some here. The majority of them probably started moving out. Some of the older people might know this around the 60s and early 70s when the group started spreading out beyond Mendota boundaries, because there's only so much here in Mendota to live. It's kind of a bowl area. You're kind of wedged in. So pretty much, like I said, Mendota is it for us. So, and most of our people, like I says, were mixed bloods. They married into the Dakota. They were mostly traders that worked with Sibley. And so they were under the protection of him, which is why we stayed here.
And if you would talk a little bit about why you're hopeful this petition will be approved ultimately now. I assume that, the fact that there's a Democrat in office and perhaps, a Native American within the Office of Interior, do those factors, I guess, give you more hope that this will be approved?
Gives us more hope. A petition, when it drops into their inbox, it pretty much goes at the back of the list. And right now, I think I looked, there's like 3 or 4 different tribes that already have a petition in place, and they're going to do their time and take their time on these ones before they get to other ones. So I can't say, like it says, if we submit it right now, do they get to it right now? Probably not. Do they start working on some of it? Probably. You know, they try to verify what they can, simple and easy stuff. Census records, you know. The US Census records and Bureau of Indian Affairs rolls are probably the strongest evidence support that we have. Most of the ones that I've researched that never gained recognition always have trouble trying to prove an Indian ancestor. You know, the one I've been researching right now is the Ramapaugh Mountain Indians. They keep the Bureau of Indian Affairs keeps going back to their 4 core families and saying that they can't trace them to any Indian ancestor. We don't have that issue. We can trace our Indian ancestors back to the chieftains of the old days, to Little Crow, to Wabasha, to Wakuta, mainly because at being some of the fur traders, they would marry into the families of the chiefs so they could get some of the gifts that helped, you know, so it was always marrying into the families. So.
In what ways have you worked to preserve your cultural traditions there in Mendota?
We've had language classes down here in Mendota in the past, both at the old office here and the other office. We've moved probably like 6, 7 different times here within Mendota. So we work on language classes. We try to preserve sacred sites, burial sites. We work to save. We want to say we saved Coldwater Springs, but that's still up in the air whether or not the water's going to keep slowly disappearing. They raised the road, Highway 55 road bed, so it was above the water coming in to the spring that was leading into the spring there. And we saved, we worked with Preserve Pilot Knob Hill Group and saved the hill on top here, which is an old Dakota burial grounds, from being plowed under a whole bunch of condominiums. So we continue that. It would help us immensely to be able to get us on the Minnesota Indian Affairs Council, which you have to be a federally recognized tribe to do. So yeah, that's what we've been trying. We've done that for like 20 some odd years, and have our powwow here annually.
Yes.
Sweats.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you sought out state recognition at any point?
We haven't in the past. We've discussed it, whether it would be beneficial or not. In some instances, I keep saying it'll get us on the Minnesota Indian Affairs Council. Well, I did a little research on that, and no, it won't. So when they passed the law, you had to be a federally recognized tribe. So would it help? In some instances, for some communities who have received recognition, take the Little Shell Band just recently, they received recognition partly based on them being a state recognized tribe in Montana. So yes, it would help. And in one instances, you wouldn't have the state fighting against, you know, because in some instances you'll have a state who's going to fight against you for your recognition.
I would like to say one more thing here before I forget. We are a small community. We are a very humble people. If people come down here, they can just feel the spirit and the feeling. Everybody in this room who's here supporting us has always said, once you come down to Mendota, there's just no place like it as far as being friendly. You know, we also have what we call our honorary members. That's people who are not Dakota but want to be part of our community. And we have like 57 honorary members, and many of them are here. It's good to see our members coming. Some came from quite a ways. I was hoping we'd have more members come, but you know, that's fine. Whoever showed up, showed up. Nobody gets paid here. You know, I put in 50, 60 hours a week every day, 7 days a week, and I don't get a dime. And Greg puts in a lot of hours too. I don't know how many he puts in. I only know how many I put in.
Stayed up till 2 o'clock last night.
Yeah, so was I. So anyway, it's, we're all volunteers and I love everybody for being part of this community. And I think that's it for me for now. I just wanted you to know that we're not your typical tribe. You know, we're small, but we're all devoted to each other. So thank you.
With the potential for about 20,000 people out there who might want to sign up if we get recognition.
Yeah, if we get recognition, they'll be coming all over wanting to become a member of this community. But we have it does change because we have a couple new people that just came in. So I'd say our guess on our membership right now is going to be 130 instead of 125. Thank you.
Thank
Do
you.
you have any more
Yeah.
questions? for
No,
me?
those are all the questions I had. I appreciate your time.
I
All right.
appreciate your time.
Yep.
You too,
That's,
Aaron.
that's Indians.com.
Yes,
Yep.
Indians with a
I've
Z.
been to your
Yep.
website, Kevin.
Good, good. Thank
How
you.
do we do an article at your, I want to do a couple articles on Mendota too. You know, like the Circle magazine did an article of us back 2000. Guys,
Still here. Some,
Ruth Old Ruth or something like
yeah,
that.
that's not,
Yeah, and so I would like them to come back and do another before and after, you know, almost 30 years later. So anybody wants to do an article on us separate than this, I'm Ellie.
I actually do
and
have a
in
couple
Mendota-
questions.
Okay,
Actually do have a couple questions I just want to confirm. Can you hear me?
go ahead. Yep.
Okay, so you said, would you say that the main benefits to becoming a federally recognized sovereign nation are possibly getting some land and getting that seat on the Minnesota, is it the tribal?
Minnesota
Minnesota Indian, okay, got it. Are those the two biggies or are there other things?
I have one thing to say, sorry, Greg.
Yep.
Is that, you know, if we go to protect sacred sites, I want people to listen to Mendota. And that's something we never get. As soon as we say we don't have federal recognition, nobody talks to us. You know, they refer to Shakopee or Prairie Island somewhere. It's like we don't matter. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it.
And I was gonna, just so you know, when Sharon brings up the subject of Prior Lake Indian community, that is Shakopee today. Whereas the other ones got recognition back, they filed their Indian Reorganization Act back in 1935. Shakopee filed theirs in 1969. A whole lot later, and they told the group back in Prior Lake, back in the day when our families were actually living there, that they were too small to reorganize into a community. But yet they allowed 8 families reorganized in 69. So I don't know what small is these days, you know? So we're always at the wrong place at the wrong time.
So then my question would be, so those are the, other than respect and being listened to, that seat, and then the possibility of land, are those the big things that you could get?
Those would be the big things, yeah. We get
Okay.
our sovereign, we get our recognized sovereignty is the biggest, you know?
But you consider yourself sovereign already, right?
Yes, but that doesn't help us when we try
Right.
to protect a sacred site. If you don't have a federal recognized tribe stepping up and trying to say that it's a sacred site, nobody's gonna listen to you, you know?
Okay.
Happened many times.
And then tell me what your goal is with the Dupuy house. You wish you could lease it for meetings?
It would be nice, nice to, it would be nice to own it, but we don't, you think that's possible,
Okay,
but it may be possible long-term lease on it, you know? It's hard to take things out of state land unless they're willing to do it. I know right now, there's a group that's trying to pull these historic sites out of the historical society from being it, because the historical society is basically a 501c3 nonprofit charity. So they kind of want to pull this back into, I guess, the Senate. I'm not sure.
Legislator.
Yeah, they want to change the status of it from the historical society being control of it. So,
yeah, I've heard about that actually. That's interesting.
yeah.
So what are the main things you have to prove in your application or your petition?
Well, the biggest is showing that the biggest things are, there's 7 criteria. The hardest ones are criteria A, B, and C. A is for a community. B is same thing as a community, but it there's a little more to it. And C is what they call political authority.
Mhm.
Some of these you got to show something every decade, something
Mhm.
about every 20 years, whether it's a newspaper article or a government document, a census roll, a BIA roll. But like I said, we can fill up all of those. We got people on the 1900, 1910 Indian population schedules, the US federal census records, and it shows them down as Indian there. The BIA will come after you with this saying, well, it just shows them Indian. How do you know that they're Dakota? Well, what that is, you got to show more descendancy again, show the ancestry linkage back to like Abraham Robinette or Albert LeClaire, who shows up on an actual Mdewakanton, Sioux of Minnesota census rolls from the turn of the century.
Can you say again? So there's 7 criteria and the hardest to prove are what? Political?
Our A, B, and C. A is community, and you got to try to show that every decade.
What does community mean?
Community, a strong supportive community would be a census roll that shows 50 people living here in Mendota. You know, that would show a strong sense of whether it's on census roll or Bureau of Indian Affairs roll. Those are very strong. Another one would be, there's a newspaper article, and I'm gonna think it's like the Pioneer Press and Dispatch back in the day, but I can't be too sure about that. I had to look it up. It's a 1902 article that talks about the remnants of an Indian community in Mendota. And they got a couple of pictures of few people in there. One is ex-chief Joseph Turpin, you know? So does that show political authority there? I don't know, because they'll say, well, he's an ex-chief.
What does political authority mean then?
Well, that's the thing. It's kind of loosely described. It is, in some instances, they won't use it as an elder. I talked to you a little earlier about Angelique Grenville and living here in the Hui House, and how she was the midwife to most of the Dakotas here. You know, that shows a little political authority, a leadership, you know. That would be an instance of leadership, you know, everybody going to her for midwife, you know.
To prove political authority now or historically? Do you have to prove?
It's got to be historically. You can do it now. Obviously, for the last 25 plus years, it's pretty easy to prove our existence, you know, and political authority and all that. But there are some decades in there that are short on documents, you know, because like taking the 60s, at best, what we would get is you'd get a letter sent out to somebody saying that there's some money from scout money that's due to Abraham Robinette's estate. Now it's got to get sent out to his relatives. groups. Well, somebody in that group's got to go out and find a whole bunch of addresses and names and give them to the Bureau of Indian Affairs so they can complete that. That will show a certain amount of leadership of somebody doing that. You know,
Okay, so you have to prove
so
political
it-
authority
it-
over time, or how would I say that? Every decade?
political entity, political authority, that's how if you look at the regulations on you'll get a wisp of it, you know. It's in the Federal Register. Hold on, I have that right here. If you go to the Federal Register, and I gotta find the right thing, and it's dated Wednesday, July 1st, 2015, and it's called the Rules and Regulations, updated rules and regulations for it. And actually, I got this in, and it's dated, this is August, oh, wrong thing. Hold on 1 second. It's kind of clipped together. So yes, so July, I don't know if you can see that. That's the Federal Registry for the latest regulations for the petition for federal recognition. They haven't changed.
So
much
I'm
of
just
it.
trying to say, what are the two most, you said the two most difficult to prove are a strong community of 50 people living in Mendota. Is that now or past?
That would be passed, because I don't think we have that many living here in Mendota right now, but we do congregate here at meetings, and we do have our powwows here.
So when do you have to show there was 50 people? Like at what time in history?
At certain points, you know, it's if I take the 1899 census of the Mdewakanton Sioux of Minnesota, it will show the groups at different locations. And on that one there, I haven't counted them offhand, but I'm going to guess there's probably at least 50 people there.
So
You know,
would say you have to prove,
and 50 is just an arbitrary number. If the
but it's their
community
number,
only-
right? It's their number, right?
No, they use that as an example, okay, but that's not it. They use it in the thing of 50%, okay. So if you have 100 people within your community, but 50% of them live in a geographical area, it's what they call that is a strong evidence of a community. Okay. But you will also find.
So it's a
early on in
percentage then? You have to have
It's-
50%. 50%
Yep,
of
they
your people?
use a thing of 50%. That's as one of them. You know, there's multiple. If you go through the federal the register, you'll see how they go dive down deep into things. They'll use stuff like intermarriages. That's another one. You know, early on.
So I just need to know what
I
I needed to know what I can say here. So you're saying that the hardest to prove are the strong community, which involves proving that 50% of tribal members lived in a geographical area at various
They live in a geographical area.
at various points.
Another, yep. And Mendota would be it, but like I says, we could probably include West St. Paul, because that's just down the road. Because I know early on, some of the people bought some land out that way and started moving that way. Or Lilydale, there was a bunch that lived down in Lilydale.
Okay, so then the second thing is that you would have to prove, that is one of the harder things, is political authority.
Yes.
So political authority when?
They ask that you can show it every 20 years now.
Okay, those are the things I wanted to know. I can use those.
And then the only other one might be E, which is one of the last ones, and that's called Indian descent. That you should prove that you descend from a historical tribe. You know?
Okay.
So,
Which we can do.
yeah.
I just want to
Okay.
say something before I forget again. I keep interrupting, but, you know, we have many different census showing that Dakota people living right here in Mendota. And we have at least 6 or 7 of them showing our families right here from, I don't remember what the first year starts at, but I think about, it's in the 1800s.
Mhm.
Well,
And I have them all.
I mean, you can go to the earliest census records, like 1830 from the Michigan Territorial Census. And Joseph Renville was living here in Mendota, or St. Peter at the time.
Yeah, St. Peter's. Now
Okay, well,
Joseph Renville.
I have to write this here in the next hour, so I'm gonna have to run.
Yep.
But
Okay,
I'll let you know if I have any other questions. Thank you very much.
All
thank
right,
you.
thank you, Aaron.
Trying to get that one point in that about the Renvilles or.
Still there?
I'm still here.
Can you hear me? Well,
Yeah,
I just want to tell you that we have two St. Thomas professors and their students helping, and that's how arduous it still is, with all those
Right.
people helping. You know, and the historical trauma of the rules keep changing, the game keeps changing. It's a lot of stuff. So thank you
I've
for
heard that.
being here.
I've heard that for sure. So, okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. I gotta write this now and I'll let you go.
All right,
Run
thanks,
too.
Aaron.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Kevin.
I want to get that we were relative. Angeline Renville is our great great grandmother.
We got that in there.
Oh, we did?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
I
why
must have been sleeping.
we are still recording.
So I have this recording on my cell phone that I'm going to share with everybody. I will.
Yeah, see, and
Really need to make really strong point about this reputation, because people were living here before they were forced out.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah, and my biggest problem are federal census records. You can only get 70 years out. Okay, so right now you can only get the 1940 census records. You can't get the 1950 yet. But what we could do on that is write to the Census Bureau and see if we can get the Mendota Village census records from 50, 60, and 70. And the thing I'd like to try to let everybody remember is in 1980, remember all these little tracts of land that like
Yeah.
mine were all sitting on land.
Yeah.
These were individual land assignments. So when Shakopee owned their thing, they didn't own all that. It was all individual land assignments to the people themselves.
Mhm.
So in 1980, they had to go to Congress to have Congress strip those land assignments away from the Mdewakanton Sioux of Minnesota and give it to the individual communities. But if you had somebody sitting on that land at that time, like John Shermack down at Shakopee, he didn't want to give up his land to the community. He wanted to keep it himself. So he fought for it. He went to court, fought and fought. I don't know whether he succeeded on it or not. But yes, they stripped that land that was supposed to be for everybody's use, but it's not no more. But it does nothing with the group. That group, the Mdewakanton Sioux of Minnesota, still there. It was identified in 1980 on congressional records, on a congressional act. I don't have it. Well, actually,
So while you're looking for that, Greg, I just want to announce that Joe has to leave. So if you want any feedback from Joe,
Yeah.
you gotta get it while he's here.
Thanks for
I think
coming,
the most
honey.
important thing we heard
Thanks for
right
coming.
at the very end.
We'll be
was
talking
she said,
soon.
I gotta write on this in the next hour.
Yeah, Yeah.
She's on deadline
Yeah.
at 4:00. So,
so that means we're going to be on the news?
well, start with you. Right? So,
Yeah.
Catherine,
Even one is fine.
Sharon,
Yeah.
so you have to check the paper in the day
have
or,
your phones, the ringer turned on, because she may call back with a question in the
Oh.
next hour.
dang it, I keep mine on do not disturb all the
I know you.
I don't, I can't.
I figured that out about you. Yeah. Whoops.
I would like to say one more thing here. It's just what I ran into today. When I was at the post office, I ran into this guy who's lived in Mendota his entire life,